Hello. Uh, as I usually start off these videos, the same sentence. I went a few places today. Actually, I only went one place today. A place that I've talked about in the past few videos. The place that's closest to my house. It's a second-hand store, charity store that sells a bit of everything. You know, most of those charity stores. I don't know what it's like in your country, but most of those shops, their primary trade is in second-hand clothes, and that's what takes up most of this floor space. And then got a bit of second-hand furniture, a lot of books, and usually the CDs, DVDs, and records take up a pretty small space. But this is the place that's close to my house, and again, I was going to the supermarket, so I popped in on a Saturday afternoon, and lo and behold, there was quite a few good things there. But I guess there's a little bit of a story before I get to showing what I got when I got there. So there's a shelf. The shelf is about, I don't know, as wide as maybe a little bit wider. Let's say it's about 80 centimeters wide. This shelf, and it's about I don't know 6 feet tall. I'm switching here between metric and imperial, aren't I? 6 feet tall, and it's got about kind of four shelves in it, and the CDs are kind of just randomly jammed on there. They're not in any sort of order, and they're kind of sometimes there's the stacks. You have to move them to look at the stacks behind. But it's a pretty decent selection there. It has been for the last few months. As in, I mean, they have a decent amount of CDs. Not always good stuff. Sometimes no good stuff, but it's always something there. And when I got there, there was already a woman and I think it was her daughter, standing in front of the shelf. And like I said, the shelf is not very wide, so can't accommodate more than kind of one customer at a time. And I'm not trying to pass any kind of misogynistic commentary or anything, but it's actually quite unusual to see ladies, women, girls, whatever you want to call it, looking at CDs, secondhand CDs. It's almost exclusively male, and male between about the age of 40 through to 60. I don't know, I'd say looking at the demographics who watch these videos, and the few people that do, I think the last month it was 100% male, and between the ages of, like I said, 40 to 54 or something like that. There's like no one younger than that. Anyway, she was standing there, and I could see. So what do I do is when someone's standing there, there's kind of like an etiquette, I think, or at least an etiquette in my mind, that I don't try and jam myself in there shoulder to shoulder, trying to look at the same time as someone else is looking, because I really don't like it when people do that. On a small confined space, you've got to give the person who was there first, their time to look through it. Once they're finished, then you get in there, and you've got to be patient. Sometimes they're looking for a long time. I've noticed some people's technique of looking, they pick up each stack of CDs and look through each CD individually, which takes fucking long time. Whereas me, I just scan my finger down. I can pick up pretty quickly things that I want just by kind of scanning across the stacks with my eyes. I've said before about record labels kind of often stick out, or particular kind of band logos, things like that. I noticed the lady in her hand, and she would have been about my age, maybe a bit older than me, maybe mid 40s, late 40s. She had, I saw Blink 182, Enema of the State, which I already own, Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, I think is the name of it, and the live album they did, I think it's called the Tom, Mark, and Travis Show, came out about 2001-ish, and Linkin Park Hybrid Theory. And there was a few others, there was about 3 or 4 others, because she had a pretty decent stack of things in her hands. I was like, oh, come on. Linkin Park Hybrid Theory. As an album I owned, I bought that when it first came out, 23 years ago, whenever it was. And I think I've owned it 2 other times, and it's not something I've really like and dying to get, but it's definitely something it's on my list of getting, because it was a big album, so it's something you would imagine you would see around a lot in secondhand shops, but I've never come across it. But she had it. I was like, if I'd got here like 10 minutes earlier, I would that would have been me. And because she had Blink 182 stuff, and also I saw a Good Charlotte CD, which I'm not the biggest fan of, and there was something else. What was it? Something like that, and that kind of pop punk, early 2000s pop punk kind of genre. Can't remember off the top of my head, but when I think I said this in the last video, that when you see a couple of good CDs like those ones, there's bound to be more. Just the way that I found it works is that you come across kind of like someone has just come in with like say 20 CDs. Someone's kind of donated them to the shop, and they're of a similar genre because it's the same person giving them. And so they kind of stack them on the shelves. And if you're lucky, you get there, you see, oh wow, there's a bunch of like pop punk stuff, or a bunch of metal stuff, or a bunch of 90s alternative rock stuff, and it's all there together, as opposed to just stacks and stacks of shit of like fucking classical compilations and whatever else, and then one good CD stuck on there. That's much more rare, I find. Very rare. So I knew that because she had found those, there was bound to be some others, and I was like, oh, I hope she's not taking all the good stuff. So I waited and waited, kind of pretending to look at the DVDs. Wasn't really, but I was pretending. What I did see there was a CD-ROM game of LucasArts TIE Fighter. If you played computer games, like PC games in the 1990s, and you like Star Wars, you probably remember that game, TIE Fighter. Like there was an X-Wing game and a TIE Fighter game. And seeing those kind of LucasArts video games from the 90s really bring back a lot of memories. Kind of wish I bought that now. Maybe I'll go back and get it tomorrow. Don't know why I didn't get it. Anyway, that's aside. Anyway, eventually she moved on. And it was probably only 5 minutes. Like I said, you just got to be patient. So I got in there, and I kind of, again, there was a lot of stacks. You had to move things around because it's not arranged in a way kind of for ease of selection. You've got to kind of move the stacks to see what's behind it, and so as quickly as I could, because I was actually in a bit of a rush. I could see a few things. So this is what I got. Okay, so I'm not going to really comment on these too much because a lot of these I actually don't know anything about. Third Eye Blind, Blue. This is their album after the one that I talked about last. What was the one I talked about last? Oh, the self-titled one. I did a video about that about a month or two ago, the one with Semi-Charmed Life, etc. Came out in 97, sorry. This came out in 99. And I talked about that, and I said I don't actually know anything of this at the time. And looking at the track list, excuse me, got a bit of acid reflux. I don't recognize any of the songs on this. I'm sure I probably will know one or two once I play it. So this looks to be in pretty good condition. We see here the dual case hub thing is one of those secure types that doesn't allow easy breakage. Not the hugest Third Eye Blind fan, but I talked about that other album, and I said that I think it's a good, well-written, catchy pop rock album. And from what I have read, this album did nowhere near as well as that one. And one of the reasons is it didn't have as many hooks. And also I think Stephen Jenkins, the lead singer's main writing partner, left. Perhaps I might be my timeline might be a little bit off there, but that might actually happen after this album. Anyway, so picked up that $1. This, no idea what this is going to be like, or what this is, but I liked the subtitle, or whatever you want to call this, the subline. So, Urban by Nature, sound design by DJ Ravin. Don't know who he is. When Bangkok meets Mauritius. So Bangkok is obviously the capital of Thailand, and Mauritius, I believe, is a island in the Indian Ocean off the coast of Africa, kind of near the Seychelles, I think. I think it's a French territory. No, it's a republic, and it's 2,000 kilometers off the southeastern coast of East Africa, east of Madagascar. I'm pretty sure it had some French, maybe it was a French colony for a while. but maybe not. Anyway, it's not really important. And looks like it's a double CD. I didn't actually see if both CDs in there. I only quickly looked and saw one. Okay, they both are, because I can see here there's one, and I checked the other side in the shop. And so what this is a little bit different. Well, there's DJ Ravin. He's a resident DJ from Buddha Bar in Paris. Now, I know Buddha Bar. I've heard of that. I've seen a documentary about Buddha Bar a long, long time ago. Well, this is something a little bit different, and maybe something terrible, because just by its description it could be, but this is put out by Sofitel, which is a luxury hotel brand chain like Hilton or W or Sheraton or any of those other big ones. And they obviously have Sofitel locations around the world. They have one in Mauritius and one in Bangkok. I've never stayed at a Sofitel. I've only stayed at maybe, what have I stayed at? I've stayed at a Sheraton. This was like a fucking 25 years ago. And I think that's it. When I travel very, very budget. Like literally sleeping in bus terminals and airports, which probably doesn't sound very enticing and maybe sounds a little bit scummy. But if I want to travel, I try to do it cheaply, and I'm not like doing it to like prove a point. It's just, I don't know. Dropping hundreds of dollars for a hotel room, which I'm only going to sleep in, doesn't seem to be the best choice of spending money. And saying that, I would love to stay in a nice hotel. It's not as though I'm like, it's like the same with anything, like nice cars or nice anything. I guess, yeah, maybe not so much other things, but certainly nice cars and nice hotels. I could say, of course I would like to stay in a nice hotel, and I would like to drive a nice car. Who the fuck wouldn't? It's just, when you have limited money, like most people do, you have to make decisions on what you're going to spend your money on. And car is very, very, very far down the list on importance for me. So I drive a 21-year-old Nissan. That, incidentally, the power window just broke on Wednesday morning when I was driving my son to school, and I put the window down. Luckily, it's summer here. I put the window down, and then it just stopped halfway. I was like, son of it does that. It's a little bit slow, or has been a little bit slow over the last kind of few months. Like the motor's struggling to put the window up or down. And so I was trying it wouldn't move. And I was looking online, and it was saying, slam the door while holding the switch up and that will release it. No, it didn't do anything. It was completely jammed up. So I did a bit of research, and I decided to fix it myself. And so I sourced a secondhand part, the motor and the regulator. You don't really think about how power windows work, but they use this kind of like pulley system with a little motor that spools up wire that lifts this regulator up, that lifts the window up. It's kind of not how I imagined they work. But anyway, I looked at it and I decided I'm going to give this guy. I sourced a secondhand part from a wrecker's. It cost about $100 New Zealand, which is about $50 US. Last night I came home and I gave it a go, and I'm as shocked as anyone. I fixed it. It's working. Put it all back together. It's working perfectly. And over the last year, I felt a lot more confident in that. I fixed a few things on my cars. I fixed the windscreen wipers, like the motor on that had completely come apart. You know, a 21-year-old car, those kind of electrical things with the side components start fucking out after a while. And so I fixed that. And anyway, no major engine stuff. I don't think I'd dive into that quite yet, but I was pretty proud of myself that I managed to do that. Anyway, I've gone way off track here. Nice hotels. I would love to stay in a nice hotel. The one time I have stayed at a nice hotel, and I kind of stayed at when I got married, I stayed at a kind of a middling nice hotel. I loved it. It's like so nice being somewhere where everything's so comfortable and it's all kind of nice and shiny and new, and the carpet and it's, I don't know, it's appealing, of course, but it costs fucking hundreds of dollars per night. And you think, well, it's almost like my rent. to stay here for a couple of nights. I could use this money in better ways. And so therefore I haven't stayed at a Sofitel property. But anyway, this is music made for those hotels in some ways. Maybe they play it in the bar of the Sofitel places. I don't know, but I can imagine. The reason I got this is I can imagine just by the urban by nature when Bangkok meets Mauritius. I can imagine what this would sound like, kind of like modern dance music with a little ambient chill factor with some Eastern influences. Let's say that. Okay, so $1 for that double CD. The Killers, Battleborn. Don't even know that this album was by them. I have Hot Fuss, Sam's Town, and the one from 2008, which I can't remember the name right now. This is called Battleborn. I never heard of it. Didn't know it existed. But it is an album by The Killers. And I think The Killers are okay. Not great, not my favorite band by any stretch. But they've got a few songs that I really like. Got a lot of songs I don't like as well. But they've got a few songs that I really do like. And by this stage, this came out in 2012. I was looking in the shop. They had kind of, you weren't hearing them about. There was a point there in New Zealand, at least, where they were pretty huge. I'd say about when was it Mr. Brightside came out, which was the Hot Fuss era, and then Sam's Town. So it would have been at 2004 to 2006, 2003 to 2006, I'd say. They were one of the bigger bands in this part of the world. But by 2012, not so much at all. And as a result, I've never heard any of these songs. But interested to hear what it's like. $1 for that. Talk about that last. Crowded House, again. How many videos have I done when we talked about Crowded House? Now, this is something I've got no idea about. Time on Earth. This is a Crowded House album. Post-breakup reunion. You know, they broke up in the late 90s originally. They got back together. When exactly, I don't know. You can see down here that this is in memory of Paul Hester. Paul Hester was the original drummer in Crowded House on, you know, their first big run. This is snapped down here. And he unfortunately took his own life. Would have been the mid-2000s. And this was obviously made after that. Okay, it was completely come away. That sucks, doesn't it? But anyway, so this was made in 2007. And the person who bought this originally paid $34.99 at, this is Borders. See, I was talking about how I can recognize price tags just by their kind of format. This is from Borders, you know, Borders, the bookstore. Well, there used to be a couple of Borders stores in Auckland. One particular one right in the center of the city was huge. It was like 4 levels, underground, and it was fucking massive. And they had a huge music selection as well. The problem was that it was quite overpriced, and that's probably why they went bankrupt and left the country. But I've got no idea what second era Crowded House sounds like. So again, interested to hear this. Don't even know who's in the band anymore. So Neil Finn, obviously, and was it Nick Seymour, the bassist? He's still in there. I can see Sharon Finn, that's Neil's wife. Don McGlashan from the Mockingbirds. Johnny Marr's on it. Does electric guitar on 2 tracks. Ricky Gooch, don't know who he is. Ethan Johns. I think his son, Liam, does some stuff. Oh, Eddie Rayner, he was in Split Ends with Neil. And there, look, Joey Waronker, he was in Beck's band. Beck, as in, you know, Beck, loser, where it's at, that guy. Anyway, I'm going to run out of time, so I better hurry up. Okay, last one. Rush, the best of Rush. Rush is a band that you hear so much about. So many artists who I revere speak about Rush in a way that is that they're hugely influential. But it's a band that I've literally heard one song from. The Spirit of Radio is the only song I've ever heard of theirs. I might have heard a couple of others just by chance, but knowingly I've only heard one song. So Rush don't have the same cultural cachet down here as they do maybe in North America. And so you just don't see their stuff around at all. And so very surprised to find this. It's a best of, but I think that's a good introduction to them because very unlikely to find a full album. And, you know, I had a boss when I was working in Japan. One of my bosses was Canadian, and he loved Rush. But yeah, so many bands talk about Neil Peart as like this, godlike drummer. And I was just listening to an interview with Danny Carey from Tool, and he was talking about how much Neil Peart had a huge influence on him. So again, interested to hear what that sounds like. Anyway, some good stuff there. We'll leave it for today. Thank you for watching.